Hi everyone. I'm very happy to be here, although it would be great to meet even more people maybe at the next NOAH conference. I'm Sven, I'm one of the two co-founders of LiveEO, the other one is sitting right there. LiveEO has the goal to monitor 1 billion assets by 2030 to improve productivity and sustainability of these assets. Daniel and I started LiveEO in 2018 based on a key of assumptions, and let's start with a very basic one. Sorry, the clicker isn't working. Can you move one slide ahead, please? The first one is a very basic one, which is that there are a lot of fixed assets out there. More than 1 billion assets are out there, and we're speaking about bridges, streets, electrical overhead lines, pipelines, houses, and so on. Sorry, could you please move one slide ahead? Yeah. The thing is that all of these assets contain an incredible value. And we are speaking about trillions of US dollars. All these assets, because of this incredible value and because of their importance for our modern society. Sorry, could I have the clicker back? Well, the tech has a few issues today. Because all of these assets contain an incredible value, they are maintained, financed, insured on a daily basis, on a frequent basis, and all these processes are still heavily manual and heavily relying on really people going out there looking at these assets. And this is not only an observation which we had, but also, for example, McKinsey says that just looking at asset maintenance, this accounts for more than 60% of OPEX spend in total. The thing is that these manual processes are super important, but it just gets harder over time since the assets which are looked at, so let's imagine a bridge or an overhead line, they have to withstand more increasing weather events. You want to maintain them more efficiently because you don't want to create so much CO2 emissions, and you also have an aging workforce on the other end, which have to deal with all these things. Great thing is that there is a solution, right? And this is innovation. McKinsey says that there are around 30% of the entire maintenance spend could be reduced if you rely on more innovative approaches. And what's the missing piece here to implement these innovative approaches? It's information, that's missing. And here comes the third and last observation on which Daniel and I founded the company. It's that right now satellite data monitors every single asset anywhere across the globe. So if you're the owner of a factory or of an electrical grid operator, you can monitor assets right now. The thing is that this data, obviously transformed into actionable asset insights, could really improve business processes. But the enterprises, the owners of these assets, are really not utilizing this data in its full extent. But why? Because the data is quite difficult. We heard Axel Space before. Would you know whether Axel Space is the right data provider or it's Planet or someone else? The size of this data is incredible. The complexity of the processing chain to create value really for the end user, for the maintenance people, for the investors, for the insurance personnel, which really have to deal with the assets, is quite complex, and the depth of insights is often lacking behind. And that's why we built the enterprise interface for observation data, which really makes this information accessible and usable for assets globally. That means we process huge satellite data streams, we measure, monitor, and predict asset conditions on a global scale, we create actionable insights, and our users have full situational awareness. So in the end, it's very much similar to the IoT sector and what happened there. For machines, in the past, you had cycle-based maintenance processes and limited asset insights. Now, you implemented an IoT sensor, which improved the maintenance process, allowed innovative insurance products and business model innovations. And in the end, it's exactly the same thing we are doing with satellite data for external fixed assets. So we are allowing companies to really improve their processes, but also completely change the way how they act. And obviously, as a company, with that, we are really becoming the enabler of a change. And in the end, also, we as a company are creating value for our shareholders. In the end, already today, enterprises are already using our satellite data solution to maintain critical infrastructure grids. So we're speaking about pipelines, railway grids, electrical overhead lines, and so on. But really, to make it a little bit more tangible and to give an easy example, let's take overhead lines, right? There are millions of kilometers of overhead lines globally, and they all need to be maintained, for example, regarding external threats such as vegetation. $6 billion are spent on this every single year, just on cutting down trees next to overhead lines, and you still have tons of vegetation power outages, or wildfires are happening every single year in California because of that. What we have developed is a solution exactly which use our backbone, our tech backbone, to monitor precisely where vegetation comes too close to the asset, and we enable the end user, the utilities, to improve their maintenance processes through our web app, mobile app, as well as our integrations in their already existing systems. With that, we have scaled and tripled our revenue since last year and over-exceeded our goals. But most importantly, we've really built the tech backbone which really produces asset insights on a global scale for a range of assets. So we are not bound to overhead lines, railway grids, pipelines, or whatsoever, but it's really on an abstract level. And this allows us three things. We are now scaling within customers. Because of satellite data and their geographical reach, we can easily scale from one sub-area to their entire network. We can add multiple analytical blocks because we already have the data input and user endpoint, so the web app and mobile app live at the customers. We are scaling geographically because there's no boundary to satellite data, so we have customers now on every continent on the earth, and it's always the same solution. It's the same way we approach the problem, it's the same way we analyze data, and it's often very much the same way we deliver the data to the end user. But because this tech backbone is so flexible, we can also scale in other domains. And just to give you an example, we're working with a German automotive company to improve their sustainability and supply chain monitoring. We are working with companies in the insurance sector and are looking at how they are creating risk models for their assets. And all this can be automated, and again, it's really easy to scale these solutions once they are live. But why now? Because of two major market trends. On the one hand side, you have the cost of satellite data coming down because just you have more supply. You have heard Axel Space, and there are a couple of companies out there which are doing the same. You had seen a few SPACs this year just financing companies building satellites, and all these new players which have are providing products in a similar range will drive down the cost of satellite data. And on the other side, you have a real also uptake in the way this data can be processed, so through AWS, for example, but also what this data can tell you. So we now have optical data sets, we have radar data sets, there will be thermal data sets, there will be super high resolution data sets, and all these trends really allow us to monitor more and more things. And in the end, both these trends support what LiveEO's vision is, which is to monitor assets across a multitude of industries and a multitude of assets generally. Because at LiveEO, we believe that satellite data is not only good to monitor emissions or the use of resources, but really help to reduce emissions or the use of resources in the first place through improving maintenance and such processes. So if you're interested to learn more about how Earth observation insights can create a positive impact, if you want to know how LiveEO is bringing Earth observation to enterprise clients already today, or if you want to speak about our next financing round happening at the first half of next year, Daniel and myself would be very happy to talk to you. Thank you very much.